Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Star Wars 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we're taking a look at none other than Rey and Dio, based off their appearance in The Rise of Skywalker. This technically is the last sequel trilogy figure that has been announced by Hot Toys. As to whether or not that is a good or bad thing will vary depending on the collector, but let's bear in mind all art is subjective and film is art, so let's keep the comments clear of anything to do with the films and just talk about the figure herself. Be respectful to everyone's opinions. Now, if you are looking to pick up Rey and Dio, this set is in stock right now with toyswonderland.com. Link for that is of course down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans now available if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here of course we have the box art for Rey and Dio. It's pretty much the usual Star Wars fare, an image of the figure herself right up here on the front of the box, and an image of Dio just off to the side. They have done one of those strips down the bottom that they sometimes tend to do, with an even bigger image of Rey on the side here. They must really love this pose for Rey because it's not just pictured once, it's pictured twice on the front of the box. Now on the back we are treated to an absolutely stunning image of Rey and Dio in this sand dune environment. I love this piece of artwork. I wish that was something we got on the front, but it has been mandated for some time that that be the box style they go with. We do have another absolutely stunning image of Rey, this time wearing the training helmet, fighting one of the training probes, which does come with the figure. Now, to a lot of people's surprise, me included, they've actually added a few things to this set since it went up for pre-order. They've added her End of the Rise of Skywalker yellow-bladed lightsaber, this little cloth that she can wrap up the hilts in, and they've also added Leia's lightsaber hilt, which we'll see a little bit later on in the video, but I'm pretty sure you can already spot it in the clam tray. Now let's get Rey herself out here. I've actually been pretty darn excited. This figure marks the 4th Rey release by Hot Toys, and I am curious as to how this head sculpt compares to the other ones. But as you can see, she is wearing an entirely white outfit, so it remains to be seen whether or not we have to go with the dark background for the rest of the review. Setting her aside, you can see she does come with one tray, so what we are going to do now is get all of her accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything she comes with. And here we have all the bits and pieces that come with Rey and also Dio. Let's start off by taking a look at the display base first. Thank goodness this time Hot Toys did not use that fixed footprint display base. This is more along the lines of something that I'd like to see going forward. It's a simple, flat display base, but it still has that print over the top, and that beautiful Star Wars metal Rey nameplate. Now you do, for some weird reason, have a waist grabber with two little white clips on the top. I know why they've done the white clips, because of course her outfit is white, but I don't exactly know why they've done the waist grabber. I think a crotch grabber would have worked perfectly fine with this version of Rey. But there is one party piece with this display base, and it has to do with Dio. There's actually a magnet right up here in the front of the base, and when you set Dio on there, he simply magnetizes and stands upright. If you don't use that, however, he is rather loose and does tend to fall over, so the best way to have him on display is in this top front corner of the base. Now, we may as well take a look at Dio while he's out here. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. He is really well painted and also surprisingly really well articulated. I actually really did enjoy the character of Dio in the film. His little no thank you was quite hilarious, and they've captured him pretty much perfectly in figure format here. He is a rollable piece, his wheel does rotate, although that's more just for fun rather than for actual display, because as you saw, without the use of that magnet, he simply won't stand up. The paint applications though are stunning. You can see weathering and chipping and wear and tear. You can also see on this vent on the side, they've even got a little piece of the vent just bent upwards to show some age and some damage. This guy is really well done. Now you do get spares of his antennae in the box in case you do break them, because they are fragile. Just be careful when you are plugging them in. They are keyed to go only a certain way. Check out the instructions, it tells you exactly how to do it. You do have a ball joint, of course, up here at the noggin, and you do have a joint just below the base of that neck there, and also a rotation. So that's the articulation there on Dio. Do make sure, as I said, you are careful, unlike I just was with Dio. Now, Rey also does come with this, her training remote. You do get a separate stand for it. It's nothing to really write home about. It's just a black stand with a clear rod, and it goes into the training remote itself. This thing also looks really, really good. This time, it's a red version. We did get this with the A New Hope version of Luke Skywalker, but they've painted it slightly different, obviously this time being entirely orangish red. And it looks really good. The sculpt was fantastic the first time around, and it's equally as good here. Now, this being a Rey figure, she wouldn't be complete without her iconic staff. She does come with it. It's pretty much exactly the same as all the previous versions. The detail is fantastic. It's really nicely sculpted, painted, and weathered. There's dirt and grime collected in all the crevices. This thing, I personally don't think is necessary now that we are getting 3 different lightsabers. But at the very least, if you do want your Rey displayed with the staff, she does come with it. Now, speaking of the 3 different lightsabers, let's take a look at Leia's hilt first. A surprise addition that nobody thought was coming until Hot Toys just recently said, hey, we just happen to have thrown it in the box, and here it is. It's really nicely done. I love the copper and silver two-tone effect, and it does look suitably metallic. You can see it comes attached with the swooshing blade, although you can of course remove that and then plug in just a regular blade. She does come with the fully repaired version of the Skywalker hilt here. You can see the leather strap around the bottom there, and there are little various sections of damage from where it was torn apart in the previous film. It's something that we have seen numerous times before. It's that classic design for this hilt, just now with that leather strap added over the top. We do actually get 2 versions of that hilt, one with a clip on the side, and then the other one that doesn't have it. They are both pretty much exactly the same other than that clip on the side there. The last lightsaber hilt she does come with is her new one. It's the yellow lightsaber blade, the first one that we've ever seen in live action. It does look eerily similar to the top of her little staff here. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it is. As you can see, it's pretty much identical. Now, to use the blade with the hilt, you have to remove the top section, and it comes with a swap out version where it's sort of opened up this mouth area and then the blade can attach. It's keyed to only go a certain way. Do be careful when you are pushing this on here because the spikes can be rather, well, spiky. Plugging in the blade itself, we now have a fully ignited yellow-bladed lightsaber, and this thing actually looks really, really cool. It's something that I never really thought of wanting to see in figure format, and now that we have it here, yeah, I'm 100% displaying my Rey with that lightsaber. She does come with a few more things. First of all is this, being the Han Solo blaster. It was given to her by Han Solo in The Force Awakens. We've seen this a bunch of times as well. It's still really well painted and really well sculpted. I'll just be popping this in the holster on her outfit. Now, she does come with a little satchel bag here. This is a little bit rough and ready if you ask me. You can see the edges are fraying just a little bit, and it gives it a rather cheap and unfinished look. Down the bottom, the exact same thing. It kind of looks a little bit cobbled together. Not up to Hot Toys' usual high standards, but at the very least you can just pop it on her and have it as a nice accessory to the overall look. It's quite nicely weathered, and the material does feel like a pleathery type of fabric. I do wish this was just a white fabric and we wouldn't have to worry about deterioration, but nevertheless, it's something that you really don't even have to use if you don't want to. She does come with this little blanket to wrap up the lightsaber hilts, and a little bit of a pleather strap just to go around there. It's done in a very soft, supple material. I really like the way this feels in hand. She also comes with this, the helmet to go along with the training remote. It actually has a point of articulation where you can open up the front. This thing looks absolutely stunning. Just look at the paint applications here. It's super worn, it's super weathered, and it looks awesome. To attach it onto Rey, you simply remove the back, and then the instructions specifically say to spread it out and then pop it over the head. It has a little bit of flex to it. If you don't do that, you run the risk of scratching up the face. And let's be honest, nobody wants to scratch up the face on a figure they've literally just received. So please be careful when you are popping this on your figure. Also, when you are pushing the blast shield down, do not push it too far, otherwise it will bump against her nose. She does come with this piece, which isn't really an accessory, but I left it off because it's worth talking about. This is the strap that goes around her bicep. It's not actually made of a pleather material, it's a rubbery style plastic. Thank goodness, because that means we don't have to worry about any deterioration whatsoever on this piece right here. Finally, she does come with an array of hands, the usual array of hands that we do get with our Rey figures. They are nicely sculpted and equally nicely painted with skin texture and detail over the top there. What we are going to do now though is get Rey herself out here and take a closer look. And here we have her standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. So far, I've been pretty darn impressed with this figure. Initially, when the very first promo pics went up, I wasn't all that excited. I did enjoy the film, but this figure didn't get me hype for some reason. Then, when the blogger pictures came out, I started to warm up to it, and now having it in hand, yeah, I'm blown away. This is, in my opinion, the best Rey that has been released to date, for a couple of reasons. The head sculpt, it's spectacular. You'll see comparisons and head swaps later in the video, but for now, yeah, I love it. The body proportions as well, it's a huge improvement. When we pop it alongside the Force Awakens version, the very first Rey, it's night and day. This one looks like a real person standing in the lightbox. The outfit is also pretty darn spectacular. It is a very punchy, vibrant white, so for the rest of this video we will be using the dark background. What we are going to do now though is take her off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have her up close and personal. I'll tell you what, this Rey has impressed me. I was not all that excited about the prospect of getting another Rey. This, of course, being the fourth one. But now, having it in hand, can I unequivocally say this is my favorite? Yeah, honestly, I think I can. It's the final look for Daisy as Rey. And this head sculpt, I mean, there's no denying it. It looks absolutely magnificent. It captures her likeness perfectly. There's a seriousness to the expression, there's a bit of a furrow to the brow, you tilt it down, she looks very, very mean. I love the way they've done this. They have changed it ever so slightly since the first prototype, which a lot of people I'm sure will be happy about, me included. This looks fantastic. Don't worry, we will be doing the various head swaps and comparisons a little bit later in the video. We may as well talk about her outfit because it is relatively simple. Potentially deceivingly so, because there is actually a lot going on, various different materials. This sash section over the top is a really thin and lightweight material, so much so that it's starting to fray along the bottom, so please be careful not to rough up the edge too much for fear of that getting even worse. You can see there are various sections where there's some very subtle weathering. on the sash, on the knee pads, and on these bracer sections. I really like the way it looks. You also have a hood up the top which is fully wired. So yes, you can bring it around the front and then use the wires to manipulate it to get it to sit just right. I personally am never really a huge fan of using these hoods on figures just because they tend to stick up with a rather sharp point. Not much you can do about it, unfortunately, with Rey, because she does have her hair dongle right up the top here, so it will stick up slightly higher. Although I'm sure if you spent a bunch of time with it, you'd get it to look even better than I just had it sitting on there. As for the rest of the outfit, it is just pure stark white, all the way down to her pants, where we get a little bit of shading on the knee pads. These are once again a very thin and light material, so they will get out of the way of posing. As for pleathery style pieces, we do have a few. This belt is a pleather style material, and so too are the arm braces. They are also slightly weathered, as you can see. You can remove them if that's something you'd like to do, but I personally really like the way it looks with this asymmetrical pattern. These pieces are made of a rubbery style plastic, and they sit on there really nicely. As I said, the asymmetrical look really is quite appealing on this piece. Coming down to the feet, the boots look awesome. They're really nicely sculpted, very, very nicely weathered, and there is a real tread on the underside with this organic looking pattern. It's kind of interesting in the way they've done it. And there is, of course, a dusty spray effect over the top. You get a teeny tiny range of ankle articulation, but I don't think this style of short boot lends to a split-cut boot design, so Hot Toys' hands were tied in this instance, and I think this works really nicely. The last thing I want to discuss is the body. It's basically a mismatch of various different pieces made of different materials. This top neck section, which by the way, it looks really, really realistic, is a rubbery style overlay. The arms are pegged in separately to the body, as you can see right there, and they are also a seamless piece. Coming down to the legs, these are hard plastic, fully jointed ones. However, when you zoom out and look at her as a whole, nothing stands out as being a different material, a different sheen, a different color. It all looks like one consistent piece, a seamless figure. And for that, yeah, I commend Hot Toys. This thing looks stunning in person. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the Resistance version of Rey standing alongside the new version. Honestly, I much prefer the new one. Interestingly enough, she is slightly taller than the original body that Hot Toys used for Rey. Don't exactly know why that's happened, but whatever they've done when they've switched out the bits and pieces, she's grown just a little bit. That may upset you, but 9 times out of 10 I won't be displaying one Rey right next to another anyway, so it's not a huge deal for me personally. The difference in the proportions and also in that head sculpt is night and day. The new one takes the cake 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10. I'm super tempted to try and pick up a bunch of these new Rey head sculpts to upgrade my previous versions, because yeah, I didn't realize that this new one would be such a big upgrade and improvement over the original release. Next up, here we have the start of the movie version of Rey, and yeah, once again, I prefer the new one. There's still a significant height difference between the two. No, one is not standing closer to the camera, they are standing exactly in line with their legs at the same distance apart, and the new one is quite a lot larger. It's actually a little bit comical to see in person, but nevertheless, I like the new one better than this one and also the Resistance version of Rey. And here we have her standing next to the Last Jedi version of herself. I still prefer the new one overall, but I like the outfit a lot better on the Last Jedi one. I like the darker color tone, I like the multicolored grey look, and I do like the higher cut boots. I also like the hair being down over the shoulders. It just gives her a more Jedi sort of look, if you know what I mean. Whereas the entirely white robed version kind of gives her a bit of a Jesus vibe, and for me personally, I just lean more towards the Last Jedi look. Not to say that I hate the new one, I actually really do like it as an overall package, but if we're just talking about outfit alone, the Last Jedi one is my favourite. But when it comes down to it, the head sculpt on the new one is just so much better that if I had to recommend one over the other, even though I do love the outfit on the Last Jedi one, I'd still have to recommend The Rise of Skywalker. And finally, here we have her standing next to Kylo Ren. Yeah, there's a huge size difference here. Kylo is a lot taller, but that's about right. I love the way these two look together, whether they're going to be dueling or fighting side by side on the shelf. I'm not entirely sure yet, but having these two as the centerpiece for the Rise of Skywalker display is more than enough for me. I know a Poe would be really nice, and a new Finn would be great as well, but for me personally, I'm happy that the line has now wrapped up, and we do have some really fantastic representations of these characters from the sequel trilogy. Now, bringing in the original Rey head sculpt for a super up-close comparison, here we have the Force Awakens one on the right, and the new one on the left. There is actually a surprisingly big size difference between the two, the original being quite a lot larger. I was really surprised. I didn't think that was going to be the case. It's a little bit weird to see in person. Also, I never really loved the expression on the original with the big doe eyes and the slightly open mouth. The skin paint texture on the new one is also far and away more realistic. I mean, at a distance, they both look like Rey, obviously, but the new one, for me personally, definitely takes the cake. Now, bringing in the head sculpt from the Last Jedi version of Rey, this is where it gets a little bit tighter in my personal opinion. I still really do like the Last Jedi one. It has a seriousness with the furrowed brow, the sculpt looks great, and the eyes aren't anywhere near as big as the original. Although the new one still takes the cake for me. I like the skin tone better, I like the texture better, and I also like the expression better. But I'm curious, let me know which one you prefer down in the comments below. Now for our first head swap combo, here we have the Last Jedi look for Rey and of course the new head sculpt. This looks absolutely incredible. I'm tempted to try and pick up another one of these head sculpts to display on the body. I know it's not accurate to the film, but trust me, in person, this looks like $1,000,000. I'm super impressed with this combo. I am curious as to what this head sculpt looks like on the new one, so we may as well try that now. And here we have it. I'm not a huge fan of this combo. I more prefer that new head sculpt. Also, this likeness, the skin tone, doesn't really match this body. I mean, it does work, though I am for some reason on this outfit kind of getting Michael Jackson vibes. Does anyone else see that, or is it just me? Am I going crazy? Either way, yeah, it doesn't really float my boat as much as the other combo. Now you might be wondering what the new head sculpt looks like on the Force Awakens Rey body. As you can see, I have already decapitated her, removing the head on this one. Unfortunately, it's not really compatible. The neck pegs are substantially different. This one is far and away longer, as you can see, to accommodate the larger head of the original. So yes, while it is technically possible to do, it does look a little bit goofy. However, I'm sure people would want to see that, so bringing it in and popping it on does pop on there, but yeah, the neck is super duper long. I guess that's something you could work around and pose with, or just swap out that neck peg altogether. But for me, the winner of this combo, if it isn't just the straight up Rise of Skywalker one, is the new head sculpt on the Last Jedi body. And here we have her wearing the training helmet. I personally am not a huge fan of the way this looks. I will never be putting her on display wearing this helmet. It just doesn't really appeal to me. But for those wondering what it looks like, yeah, it looks fairly decent, if not slightly oversized. You can of course close this blast shield on the top there, but please be careful not to scratch up the nose. The best way I've found to do it is to move the helmet slightly forward and then pull the blast shield down so that it's completely covering the face without rubbing against her nose there. There is a little bit of movement, so do be careful not to apply too much pressure, because that friction of this rubbing against the cheek will destroy the paint applications on the face if you're not careful. Just going over articulation on Rey. Now bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now, starting off with the head sculpt itself, it is on a fixed neck. However, it is a rubbery style neck, so you get an absolutely insane range of motion in pretty much all directions. That is super impressive. The arms themselves are pegged in separately to the body, so they go up the full way. Same thing with going forward, and there is a butterfly joint at the shoulder. As for the elbow, we do have seamless arms, but you can get it over 90, and there is a swivel incorporated as well. The wrists themselves, though, are just regular 1/6 scale female style wrist pegs. As for the body, you do have a swivel, pivot, and crunch forward and back at the upper and lower waist. The legs themselves will go forward to about there, they will go out to about there, swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee, which has an absolutely enormous range of motion, and you do have a ball joint down here at the foot, although due to the design it is a little bit more restricted. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things about Rey. The first annoying thing is the fraying of this outfit material. It's super thin and it's super light. It looks and feels great, but when this starts to happen, you get a little bit worried. I mean, how long until it starts to deteriorate all the way up? I hope this is just an intended look, but as far as I can tell, that's a completely unfinished seam, so if you're not careful, that will deteriorate even further. The second annoying thing isn't the inclusion of this helmet, it's the way you have to put it on the figure. You run the risk of damaging and scuffing up the paint on this fantastic head sculpt to pop this on there. I think they should have given us a second head sculpt with this already attached, that then we could have removed it off, and yes, it would have had certain sections of the head sculpt cut away, but for those who want to have her holding it, you could have still accommodated that. Plus, you wouldn't have had to scratch up this head sculpt to get that look. The third annoying thing, and by all means, it is just down to my posing, but it's the way the robe looks when you pull the hood up. Because the hair at the back sticks up so significantly, it sort of gives it this weird pointy-headed look up the top, and I'm not a huge fan of how that comes across. I much prefer it with the hood down, but for those of you who always want to have the hoods up on your Jedi-type characters, it just comes across a little bit goofy. The first cool thing on Rey is the material they've used on the arms. It's very similar to Shuri, so when you go ahead and bend the arms, it bends in a supernatural way. It will leave a crease there, but right now, look down at your elbow and tell me there aren't creases there. It creases in a natural way to make it look like real human skin. It's quite interesting to look at and feel in person, and honestly, I hope they use this style of material going forward. The second cool thing is the numerous hilts you get with Rey. You get 2 versions of the Skywalker hilt, Leia's hilt, and also her yellow-bladed lightsaber with the swap-out top attachment piece. This is 100% overkill, and I'm super glad they did it. We can now have a spare one to go ahead and CCFL convert to the super bright, punchy, light-up lightsaber blade, and you'll still have a spare one left over. You don't have to sacrifice the hilt that comes with your figure. One has the clip, one doesn't. We have the swap-out section. These are really well done and really well painted, sculpted, and engineered. The third cool thing is this head sculpt. It looks absolutely incredible in person. You'll have to take my word for it. Pick up this figure, and then when you get her in hand, let me know how right I was, because yeah, this head sculpt is sensational. It doesn't have that doe-eyed look that the original ones did have. It has a nice furrowed brow, serious expression that when you tilt it down she looks mean, but when you tilt it up she looks hopeful. It's a really strong sculpt. That, coupled with some fantastic paint applications, makes this Rey head sculpt my personal favourite. Just wrapping up on the Rise of Skywalker version of Rey. Now there's only one question that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be boiling this down to, and it is this figure better than the previous versions? My answer is yes, I think it is. Even though I prefer the outfit on the Last Jedi figure, the head sculpt on this, the body proportions on this, the articulation, and the outfit being a really nice, light, flowing material that does allow for great posability, this one takes the win. There's no question about it. She comes with the most accessories, she comes with Dio, and then you get that spectacular head sculpt. This one is a huge win. If you're a sequel trilogy collector and you love the films, do yourself a favor and pick up this figure to go alongside your Kylo Ren. Is this figure as good as that Kylo that I recently reviewed? I don't think it is, no, but it's very, very close second. These two, in my opinion, are some of the very best Star Wars figures that Hot Toys have ever made. Yeah, I said it, they are that darn good. It just comes down to whether or not you like the source material, but remember, don't head down to the comments and let me know that The Last Jedi or whatever it is ruined your childhood. We're only here to talk about the figures, so let's keep it to that and respect everyone's opinions. Now, if you would like to pick up Rey, she is in stock right now with toyswonderland.com. A link for that is, of course, down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. While you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.